and we're going to work on Mackenzie today. This is the first time I've worked on her, so we'll be able to discover different things that are going on. Since I'm not familiar with this body at all, I'll just scan it in different areas and see what we have. Let's see. When you start with somebody's body and you haven't worked it before, it's good to go slowly into it and get to know it. Let them get to know how your touch is. It's better to just go slow and work into it. There's always a bit of tension. There's always a bit of time for gaining trust and getting to know what's going on. There is a lot of tension that she's carrying in her upper shoulders and in the upper back. This shoulder feels quite frozen down. It's not like a frozen shoulder, but there's a lot of tightness in there. The shoulder has a little bit more motion, but that's still pretty tight. Yeah, definitely the left shoulder has more tension. Okay. So we'll apply the oil, and it's important to put the oil into your hand first and then put it on the body. Partly is because sometimes the oil is a little cold, and it's not nice to put cold things on a person's body. Although I have to confess, my fingers are oftentimes real cold when I start out a massage. It takes only a few moments for them to warm up. But sometimes the people do feel like they've gotten a bit of a blast of ice cubes, because in the wintertime it can be pretty cold. So I try to warm them up, but oftentimes it's such a short warm-up period that most people are okay with feeling that little bit of coolness. But you don't want to pour cold oil on people. So I'm just going to go through a regular work on the back like I would do starting out with anybody, and I'll talk to you and tell you what I'm finding. Along here, along the trapezius, there's some tension right in through the upper part of the trapezius, along the levator scapula muscle as well. Those are always tense spots. And then we'll just start by going down the spine. Now, I don't know how many of you picked that up, but as soon as I went in, I was already too deep in because there was a flinching happening down in this area. So when you see that happen, just back out of the body and let it get to know your touch. You don't want people to be jumping off the table or squirming around. You really want them to be able to relax deeply so that the body will surrender and allow the work and the healing to take place. We're going to run this down again. Spreading out the hips. And one more time. And we'll see what we run into, and I'll stop and explain things as we go. Coming to the shoulder area. Now this was where there was a little bit more tension, so we'll see how quickly this works its way out. And again, this is more pressure than cranial or lymphatic work, but it's not a lot of pressure at all. I'm still going in, allowing the muscles to pull me in, letting them to invite me in, and I'm not going hard enough to have them where they're setting themselves up into a stressful situation, worried about pain or any kind of quick invasion that might cause injury. Each body feels so different and yet so the same. Okay, up we go. And then along the shoulder. A lot of this work you can see in other videos, because I do a similar routine all the time because it's a good one. It's thorough. It moves from muscle group to muscle group. You can get a pretty good idea what's going on with the body. Not only just the back, but you can oftentimes feel stress lines that might be going down into the hips or down into the knees. And again, I'll have to say that it does seem kind of strange to many of you out there who aren't accustomed to subtleties with the body. So much of what we've been taught is that we have to be real brutal with the body in order to have it heal, but it's not necessarily the case. And then down to the hip area. And there we go, up one side of the spine. And right in the middle of that muscle, that's the erector spinae muscle. It's the long muscle. It has different parts to it, but basically that's the muscle that I'm working up. Back down, and then we're going to do some cross fiber along from the vertebrae over on the left hand side. The back, Mackenzie's back is fairly tight. The muscles are fairly tight. I think she does a fair amount of work with her back. It doesn't feel like it's a bad tension. It feels like there's a lot of tone in the muscle, but there's more tension there than it probably needs to have. So there seems to be some tension here in the shoulder, so I'm going to pull her arm back and just let me lift it. Yeah, stay relaxed and don't help me. That's always hard for people to do. Yeah, just let your shoulder rest into my hand and just let it relax. Let me move it. And you let me know if it hurts. We're just going to take this up and go underneath. There's a nice winging of the scapula, getting underneath the scapula here. This is very good to have this kind of flexibility. I prefer to lay the arm down and lift the shoulder up in this regard. I'll keep it relaxed. Although there's another way you can do this, and that feels like it's, yeah, there's some work in there to do. So I'm just ironing the muscle in and seeing what's happening to it here. Letting some unwinding take place. There's a spot that's pretty tight right there. There we go. There's some nice little shifts that happened. Now some of the other techniques that many massage therapists will do will be bending the arm completely back. I don't like to do this. For one thing is that it's kind of a binding position where, you know, you get your hands pulled behind your back, you know, to get handcuffed or to get tied, and it does bring up some issues on some people who have maybe been harmed in that way or frightened by some kind of a binding thing. Plus, many people don't have the flexibility in the front part of the deltoid, in the anterior deltoid. Yeah, just stay relaxed. In the anterior deltoid to be able to pull back. So sometimes you can make it very uncomfortable on them. So it's better to just work it with the arm down and then have your hand be underneath the shoulder. And the other thing that you want to pay attention to is, especially when you work somebody for the first time, is the tendency is always that the volunteer muscles are going to want to help you. But as soon as they do, there's a flexion taking place or an extension taking place, and so you're not going to be able to get into the muscle as well. A lot of that is just a reaction that happens because the body is in a stressed position and it doesn't really know how to relax. The more you work on somebody, the more you're going to find that relaxing is going to happen, and they're not going to be directing the work. So that's another thing to watch for. So just be patient with it and work with it. And I'm just rotating the shoulder a little bit here. And then I'm going to set the arm back down. And that's softened it up somewhat. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. Sometimes it just takes, a lot of time to be on one area to get it to work and relax. Now, in that the cameras are on the other side and it's impossible for me to get to the other side, I'm just going to do a little bit of stretching here. Here's some rather bumpy areas along the trapezius here. And just taking it in so that it can stretch and lengthen itself. And again, I'm not using a whole lot of pressure because I'm allowing the muscles to flatten out and relax on their own. If you have too much pressure too quickly, they're gonna bow their head back just like a little snake, and they're gonna coil up and they're gonna tighten up. So remember always to go slowly into a muscle and let it invite you in. It's almost as though we've been so accustomed to so much aggression that it's really difficult to back off and be a little more passive with things. But we do have that side to us, and it's a very caring side, and it's a side that is the side that we as human beings should try to work on a little bit more. And a good place to start is just by respecting ourselves and being gentle with ourselves and with others, and open up some new things within yourself. You'll find that your body will respond differently when you are on, or I are on, less of a kind of a heated mode. Just soften and be appreciative for what's around. It's always easy to fall into that negative side. And many people who do body work, at least some of my experiences with it, it feels like I was used to let their aggressions out. And that isn't a good thing, really, if you're going to be a body worker. You have to put all of your stuff aside and remember that you're caring for somebody and you want it to be a good experience. So I'm going to take this one, move up the back with this energy. See how well that does. And that feels like there's a magnetic pull. There was just a muscle release that way, that direction. There's another one that was relaxing down. It's a very magnetic feeling on my hand. There was another one right under here. And that feels nice and smooth. Okay. There we have it, and this back is now feeling softer. There's some work to do on this shoulder, more work to do in here, but in that I can't get the right directionality of it. I have to work it at another time. I can also check the flexibility of the shoulder here. I'm setting it down just right. I'm on the other side, so it's kind of hard. Okay, let that come down. Let your shoulder come down. There you go. I just want to see the pickup here. Yeah, this is another good wing. You can get underneath the scapula. There we go. go. This one's a little tighter actually on this part of it. And there's some tension in her shoulder that's holding it down, so we'll put it back. And yeah, it's very important to get the person on the table to that point of relaxation. But that does take a little bit of work and a little bit of time. So on your new people, just remember, handle with care. Let us know if there's